Great. Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's ICEA Southern California chapter webinar. I'm Lisa Colabella, president of the Southern California chapter of ICEA. We're very pleased to have Charles Orlando presenting today. Charles is the chief strategy officer at Galorath, where he leads the company's overall strategy and artificial intelligence initiatives, including the development of SEER AI, which is the enterprise platform for cost, schedule, and risk estimation. Charles has 30 years of experience in business-to-business software as a service and applied artificial intelligence, and he brings a wealth of knowledge about how technology can complement expert judgment and support dependable decision-making in complex, high-stakes environments. Charles' presentation is called AI's Practical Impact on Cost Engineering, and he'll be discussing how artificial intelligence is helping cost engineers work more efficiently, improve consistency, and strengthen accuracy and traceability across projects. With that, please join me in welcoming Charles Orlando. Thank you, Charles. Over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate the introduction. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. As Lisa said, my name is Charles Orlando, and I have a 30-year eclectic career across a combination of vertical markets and industries. Most recently here at Galorath, driving our artificial intelligence. I've framed this presentation up a little bit more like a lunch and learn than a formal presentation. And with that in mind, I would invite anyone to ask any questions. They can be triaged in the chat, and we can get to them maybe during the presentation if they apply, maybe at the end. My goal is to keep this as interactive as possible. There's a lot of information out there about artificial intelligence. Most of the organizations that we've been interacting with have either open sandboxes or are trying to figure out what their sandboxes are going to do. And I've been looking at AI for the past 3 years, specifically generative and agentic. And for those who are unfamiliar with those phrases, we'll be going through pieces of that. Most recently, I was involved in I led a study on artificial intelligence for higher education, specifically for English as a second language students at the university level, and how AI, generative and agentic, can assist in that process. But that's a subject for another time. Here, I want to talk about estimation-centric artificial intelligence that's focused on cost, schedule, and risk estimation and analysis. And with that, I want to just load this up with a couple of data points. When we take a look at the market, what's happening within artificial intelligence across a combination of industries, our research shows that about 60% of those organizations plan to incorporate artificial intelligence into their processes and their workflows, their whole operations by the middle of 2026. Based on some of the happenings within the world today, that may be slipping towards fall, end of year, but people definitely see the opportunity. And it's not just about speed and accuracy. What it's really about is insight. Operationalizing artificial intelligence has to do with changing how we work. And that change management brings a combination of challenges, which I want to talk about today, as many of you, if not all of you, are either personally or with your organizations evaluating how artificial intelligence may play within your market and within your company. Because 60% is a large number when we take a look at the number of companies that are going to start operationally AI. The challenge that comes with that, though, is the amount of information that's not necessarily out there and available. And what I mean by that is the operationalizing at the company level is one thing, but to then move that towards the next phase where it's going to be used is something else. And that's that change management piece. From our research, less than 13% of employees have received any type of training when it comes to artificial intelligence, meaning that they are either using what we would call shadow AI, where they have spun up their own personal account on ChatGPT, or they're using Gemini or Copilot on their own, and that hasn't been sanctioned by the organization. And they're learning about prompt engineering. They're learning how to utilize that service. But the security implications of that are huge. In addition, currently generative AI is very much a place of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't ask the right questions or don't phrase them in the right way, you will get bad answers, and then those bad answers can be operationalized. With that all in mind, this is where I see a huge disconnect between what organizations say that they want to accomplish with the advantages that come with not only automation, but the synthesizing and the harmonization of information from a variety of sources. That's where the process efficiencies come into play. But when you look to solve those inefficiencies, it'll only matter if individuals understand how and when to use artificial intelligence. And this is why we've been very active in the industry, in both in terms of education and development, to really talk about what can be done, and why it's going to be utilized the way it's going to be utilized, how it can be used in the best ways possible. Because the promises of artificial intelligence are everywhere, but we've taken a look at things a little bit differently, and I would encourage this group to do the same. When we talk about cost, schedule, and risk, a generic or generalized artificial intelligence provides information. It provides stuff. But is that stuff accurate? Is that information, are those insights rooted in cited, verified data and information? When we talk about estimation-centric artificial intelligence, ECAI, the goal is not automation for its own sake. It's the enablement of both focus and clarity. So taking a better look at this, estimation-centric AI automates repetitive and mechanical tasks, allows estimation professionals to focus their energy on critical thinking rather than just data analysis and data wrangling. Analysts and reviewers can see precisely how an estimate was built and formalized, what evidence supports it, where it came from, whether historical or in market, or other places. And when a decision is revisited months later, after uncertainty as much as possible has been eliminated, you can see the entire full path of how this was developed, from the raw data and to the rationale to approval, and all replayed without guesswork. So in essence, AI, through its ability to gather a combination of information, allows the both visibility and actionability of data in ways that have never been available before. Now, this approach restores the balance between rigor and speed, because there's always a sacrifice for speed, it's accuracy. But if you're able to plug this in the right way, you don't have to sacrifice either. These two aims have been, the accuracy and speed have been in competition with each other for decades. So when we move quickly, we lose traceability. And when we slow down, we let opportunities pass. But with estimation-centric artificial intelligence that's been built specifically for that, you enable both. These are faster development cycles that meet the standards of audit and peer review. And this is the broader purpose from our standpoint, if it's not too grandiose, is to really reestablish estimation as a science of record, to a discipline that where every conclusion can be traced, tested, and improved. And with that in mind, what I'm really talking about is AI as a tool for the estimation professional. This is not about replacement. This is about augmentation, to be able to add insight and visibility across a combination of data that professional can then use. She or he then has the ability to perform keen analysis and critical thinking without spending their time, hours, weeks, months, assembling that data into a cohesive format. And we can talk about how that applies in just a moment. But before we do, I'd like to define a few terms here, if I may, just so we're all on the same page, because there's too many potentials out there when it comes to artificial intelligence. Generative AI is different than agentic, and just to define them both quickly, generative AI is natural language. This is structured outputs based on normal language inputs. They are large language model powered, and they're traceable, and they're sourced back results. Now, with a generalized artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, those sources may or may not be available. Their training dictates that. I'm going to talk about the differences with estimation-centric in just a moment. Agentic artificial intelligence is different. AI agents, and this is the buzzword if you're paying attention to AI or if you have something running in a sandbox in your organization. For those who don't, agentic artificial intelligence, these agents are built for specific purposes. Sometimes those agents are built specifically to perform a task autonomously. If I build an agent to go get me the price of copper on an hourly basis, it will do that for me. Or other agents may work in the background where they're not going to synthesize or normalize data as it comes into the platform, but instead it's been specially built to recognize the commonalities between the data and instead harmonize that into a common structure. That's something that an agent would be specially built for, and then generative AI will take over and then present that to the user. The important piece about the agents is that we keep a human in the loop. And it has to be scalable and it has to be explainable, not just speed driven. Retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. This is where you will augment or supersede an artificial intelligence training by providing real-time documents or information on the fly. This way you have visibility into how the AI is thinking because you're providing it real examples and real information that you determine as the user to be verified. And the AI can then add that into its training. Automated prompt engineering. One of the challenges that come with artificial intelligence, generative AI, agentic, is, as I mentioned at the top of this, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know how to frame up a prompt, you will have challenges getting a quality answer out. Automated prompt engineering works on the back end, where when you put in a prompt or put in a query, with that comes some work that the AI will help you form up your prompt in a better way without you even knowing it. This is your plain language input, and I'll show you an example of this towards the end of this presentation. And you will then get an interpretation of that by the artificial intelligence, where you say, show me this. The AI will say, I think you mean this. Is this what you meant? Let me show you that. So the AI is doing the heavy lifting of creating the proper input with you so that it provides a better response as it starts to form up its generation. And lastly, oops, if I can click here. And lastly is contextual agent activation. This is something that is just starting to gain notoriety, but we've been on the cutting edge of this for quite a while. One of the challenges that comes with agentic artificial intelligence is how do you know which agent to spin up? Is that a manual process? Today, for many generic AI platforms, it is. Contextual agent activation works in concert with the rest of what you see here defined. And I'll put this in context for you shortly. But based on the query and the prompt that's been put in, it will auto-select the correct agent or agents and spin them up automatically, working with prompt engineering, working with the combination of agents on the background, and it will in the background, and it will then help you spin up the right agents to get you the answers and the insights that you want. Now, I'm going to put all this in context over the next 15 or 20 minutes, but I wanted to at least ground us with what's here. And as a reminder, I've been talking for about 15 minutes or so. If you have questions or if things are not clear, this is a purely educational webinar. So if I can answer some questions based on what you are experiencing or based on the information that I am providing, please chat them in, and either I will see them as part of the chat or Lisa will bring them to my attention. So with this in mind, what does this mean for estimation-centric AI in practice? To provide some examples here, I'm going to have to get into some of what we've been working on over the past 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And I'll give you some brief background. I'm going to be referencing some of the products here, but this is not a sales pitch by any means. I just want to be able to offer some context, not only to what we've been building, but why we've been building it and how that applies to you as you either look at your own organization and what you've been concentrating on and what you've been working on, or what you need to be thinking about as you start evaluating how artificial intelligence and specifically estimation-centric AI that's been built for cost, schedule, and risk can assist in how you've been conducting your business. So to put a little bit of this in context, I know many of you are either customers of ours or you've heard of us. So Galorath is a 46-year-old organization that specializes in cost, schedule, and risk. And we have a combination of solutions and tools that address hardware, software, manufacturing, IT, space, and a number of different specialized extensions for our platform. That's not what we're talking about today. But we did leverage a lot of that 46-year in-market experience to understand what's needed for estimation-centric artificial intelligence. So what we have launched is an agentic artificial intelligence that's built specifically for estimation. But more importantly, sure, it can be integrated with our platform, but what we've developed can be deployed independently. And that's the main message that I wanted to provide out of specifically this slide, is that anything that's tied to a specific solution or point solution or platform, AI is evolving too rapidly. And the one thing that I have learned over this time is that whatever I know at the end of my workday, today at 5 o'clock, I will be smarter than I was than I woke up. But based on the advances that we are experiencing in artificial intelligence and how it's being approached, I'm going to wake up tomorrow stupid again, and I have to learn a whole bunch of things again and really understand how the market is moving. That's how all artificial intelligence needs to be approached. So if you have that sandbox running at your company, or if you're just starting down that path, take a look at how your organization is framing things up. And if you are tying things down to a solution or solutions or platforms that you can't necessarily decouple very easily. We've developed a number of different agents that we've learned from. And I would encourage you to, when you watch this either in replay or if you want to take a screenshot of this, or happy to send my slides out afterwards, we've built agents that are specific for estimation, because the regular agents that are out there are not going to do enough work. Whether you're looking for something that specializes in RFI or RFP analysis, or 2D or 3D to cost, the information, both in terms of generative information from a generalized platform to a generally developed agent, they're not specific enough. I would strongly encourage all of you to take a look at what you have running today, or your approach, and look at how this applies specifically to your organization and your workflows. Zachary's asking a great question here. In working with proprietary data, we don't want the data exposed or used to further train artificial intelligence. How is that protected at rest or in transit? I'm going to wait for that for the next slide. Zachary, fantastic question. Because as soon as I start talking about any of these agents incorporating or ingesting data like 2D or 3D drawings, or RFP responses or questions, estimation data, competitive bids, we can keep going with the agents that need to be looked at. Market intelligence, both internal and external. Strategic sourcing, being able to frame up side-by-side models and comparisons of whether it pays differently to, or is more effective to develop in India or Indiana, and be able to model those separately with a normal conversation with a combination of information coming in. Knowledge capture, to be able to understand what your experts know and how to not only capture the information they have, but operationalize it so that it informs your processes long after they have either retired, moved on to another department, whatever. So the security side of this is critical. So working with proprietary data, Zachary, These are the reasons why we don't encourage shadow AI and why you should all be clamping down on anybody's ability to utilize any generic cloud-based platform for artificial intelligence. That automatically exposes data at 100%. Zachary's question was specific around some of the things we've been working on, so I'll address that more generally. The way we have found is most effective to handle this is multifold. Firstly, we only deploy as an isolated tenant, whether that's managed cloud, whether that's in GovCloud, AWS for GovCloud, whether that's behind the firewall, to ensure that data is protected and secure and addresses all the concerns between FedRAMP or CMMC or CUI data and protocols to ensure that it is only deployed behind the firewall or in a managed cloud environment as an isolated tenant. That's the only way that that works. How is that data protected at rest or at transit? This is something we spent a lot of time researching and ensuring. So some of the challenges that come with defense, government, military defense, or defense adjacent organizations is that there are very specific rules that dictate how and when data can be either kept in memory at rest or in transit. And this is why artificial intelligence, generic artificial intelligence, is one of the reasons why it doesn't work effectively for cost scheduling risk. We've addressed that, Zachary, by ensuring that the data that is either ingested or brought to bear as part of a response is not kept in memory of the AI. Can you pull that back up again? Yes. It's mapped effectively, but the data is not kept once it's at rest or once it's been ingested. When the user session ends, nothing is retained, and that's been something that we ensured we adhere to all of those rules. Hope that answers your question. If not, please jump back in. Let me put some of this in context for you because we've talked about a combination of definitions. We're looking here at a wide variety of agents that specialize in a specific task, whether that's estimation, working out a work breakdown structure or a product breakdown structure or a bill of materials, whether that's an RFP, an RFI agent, ingesting 2D drawings or 3D drawings and interpreting those out to cost. But how does this actually find, and a number of others that are here. But in the spirit of time, what does that mean as we start putting this in play? Because Zachary's asking the right questions. How do we ensure that we're getting a combination of information ingested into the AI without sacrificing security, without sacrificing accuracy, meaning where's this information coming from? Because, and I'm sure somebody out there is thinking this, when I type something in a chat GPT, I get a bunch of stuff, and that stuff is framed up in a very confident way. But how do I know that it's right? How do I know that it's accurate? And we get it. This was one of the questions we asked 2.5 years ago when we started down this path. How do we cite and reference the right information instead of just a bunch of information? So we started with an artificial intelligence. And as I've mentioned, we've put these agents that specialize in both autonomous tasks and spun up tasks that you can task it with in real time. Some of them are in the background, some of them are in the foreground. But what we've done is we put contextual agent activation to be able to make it very easy for the user to understand how to utilize the platform, because you don't have to necessarily spin up the appropriate agent. Automated prompt engineering and contextual agent activation takes care of that. And this is the dream vision of where all estimation-centric artificial intelligence needs to go. The reason I'm hammering on automated prompt engineering and ensuring that the technology does most of the heavy lifting instead of the user. AI today is very similar to how search engines performed, let's say, 35 years ago. The best example is if you wanted to find something in the early to mid 90s, you could find anything on the internet. You just had to be an expert in Boolean logic and Boolean search terms. You had to frame up your request very specifically, and then you could find things. That changed, obviously, where the onus was then put on marketers and on the technology to be able to interpret the right relevance of information. And now your search results are ranked based on that relevance. And Google spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year as one search engine to ensure that relevance stays key. And AI, of course, through AI search, is now doing the same type of thing. But it all came backing up to the early to mid 90s. It's very similar to the way AI is right now. If you don't frame up your request precisely, exactly the way it needs to interpret it, and because it's generative, it will come up with a different answer each time, or maybe not a good answer at all. Automated prompt engineering and spinning up the right agents at the right time based on the request itself is critical. So as you start to look at artificial intelligence solutions for your organization, this is something that's of paramount importance. It goes back to the data that I shared at the top of this presentation. While organizations are looking to operationalize this, only 13% or so of the people that are actually going to use the solution have any context of what it means to utilize it. That change management has to be mitigated. And my strong suggestion is that the technology do the heavy lifting, not that you put the onus on training individuals to learn how to write prompts in addition to their regular jobs. Around all of this, and getting back to Zachary's question around proprietary data exposure, ensuring that you have security and governance as a wrapper around this entire interaction, and not necessarily as a security layer. And the reason I'm using the word wrapper is that when an artificial intelligence has access to a combination of information, it needs to be able to form its answers only based on what that specific user is supposed to have access to. Now, when we talk about defense or defense adjacent organizations, military, government, high risk organizations, many commercial as well, the security protocols that go for organization, team, individual, they vary. And if the AI has access to a combination of information, but that individual is not supposed to have access to it, that's an issue. So the AI has to be smart enough to understand role-based access control. This person has access to this information, so yes, I can form my answers based on this data. If they don't have access, I can't form my answers based on this data. If there's any questions about what I'm describing, please chat them in and I will clarify if this is too fast, because I realize this is a fast and furious primer of AI. And I want to make sure that you walk away from this with enough education and value for your time here today. So please let me know if you have questions. So role-based access control, ensuring that the right people get responses that are based on only information that their security clearance grants them permission to view. In addition, that going back to tenant isolation, deploying this securely and ensuring that you aren't exposing your organization or your organization's information or data outside is critical. That's why it should only be deployed as an isolated tenant. In addition, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, we aren't looking to replace estimation professionals. We are absolutely keeping a human in the loop. With that in mind, we are looking to provide them lots of actionable insights that will provide different types of paths that they can go down, and they can use their critical thinking, their experience, their expertise in order to form better answers faster. Where does the AI get this information? Well, one source is through structured and unstructured data, historical information. These are all data sources that reside within the organization itself. As you look at this, to be able to tie this in to your databases, your information, even hard copy assets will be very important. We've talked about RAG ingestion, retrieval augmented generation, the ability for the AI, the ability for the user to add in information that will either supersede or add into the AI's training. So to be able to add that information in is important. It provides relevant, validated information that can add into the AI's training. And you as a user have visibility into how that AI is referencing information and data as it forms its responses. The challenge most organizations have with this type of information is ingesting it into the AI at scale. This usually involves many months or years, personalized training over a long period of time. I would strongly encourage everyone to take a look at what it means to have instant RAG. This is something that we have been developing for a while, but just to give you a sense of what that means, the ability to source relevant data and then upload that into an AI, that process adds accuracy and relevance to its responses, but the process itself doesn't scale. To be able to integrate into these types of data sources with a very straightforward protocol is what's necessary in order to do this at scale, where the AI can go out to the appropriate areas, structured or unstructured, and understand what's relevant and pull that into its responses automatically. That way you eliminate the manual step of what it means to add relevance and accuracy to your queries. Entire systems can also be tied into artificial intelligence. This isn't something that we've been doing yet, but the vision, not only with us, but with any organization that is looking to add long-term value, needs to be evaluated as well. So on the left, we're looking at historical information. On the right, entire systems and all the data within them can also be integrated into an artificial intelligence. And that uses Model Context Protocol, MCP. The best example I can give you is that if you've ever integrated a database into a piece of software, you've used, or vice versa, you've used APIs. And if you're not familiar with APIs for some reason, those are open hooks on the end of software that allow you to plug in other solutions so that you can access the data, usually bidirectionally, but sometimes one way, either way. MCP is similar, but it's built as a standard specifically to integrate platforms or entire systems into an artificial intelligence. So this is where you should be looking from a long-term perspective. But there's one piece that we've left out here. Everything here is all internal. There's definitely a need to ensure that external information is added into this process, where the ever-shifting economic indicators of what's happening in the world gets ingested automatically by the artificial intelligence. LLMs change on a regular basis. All you have to do is read the news yesterday, and DeepSeek AI has made some dramatic improvements. Apple is settling in with Google with their artificial intelligence development for Siri. So everything's shifting. To have this type of flexibility is what I alluded to at the beginning of this presentation, where if you head down this path, be sure that your organization is developing in a flexible way so that you have the ability to plug and play as new advancements are made, as regulatory databases change, both for the organization as well as in the world. To be able to incorporate a combination of indicators, either through a specialized agent or automatically by tying into specific news sources or databases. This is going to be key, especially in today's rapidly evolving world where the supply chain is shifting based on politics. And this is not a political conversation. I'm just talking about the constant shift in what's happening in the world and how that impacts your ability to frame up should cost and price to win. If there's any questions on anything I've covered up to this point, I would encourage you to chat that in. If you don't have any questions, I'm happy to address the top three that usually people start to ask. The first is, why can't I just use ChatGPT or ChatGPT Enterprise or something similar? ChatGPT and ChatGPT Enterprise are not the same. Enterprise will install the HANA firewall, and they're giving it away for $1 a piece. But the challenge that you've got is that they're still leveraging your training information. Now, they say that they're not, but the truth is, when you're still operating mostly in the cloud, this is not necessarily a completely isolated tenant. In addition, there's a lot of development that has to go into this. And the most important reason is that this is not an estimation-centric artificial intelligence. This is a generic LLM, and it's fantastic. We integrate with ChatGPT Enterprise, absolutely. The challenge that you have, though, is that unless the agents are built specifically to address cost, schedule, and risk, you will get answers that sound very confident, but they aren't necessarily driven by the right agents that give you both relevance, accuracy, and speed. AI is constantly shifting. How do I know to select the right solution? Agreed. It's evolving too rapidly. The truth today is that the right solution is the one that is the most flexible and the one that is planning for what you cannot see yet, where you don't know what you don't know. So this is how we've been approaching it. I would strongly encourage any and all of you to look at the same. And lastly, we've been talking about the security. But when you talk about the integration or the access of historical information and the security implications that come with it, I agree. Which is why when I was talking about the security layer and the isolated tenant deployment only, either managed cloud or behind the firewall, the integration or the implementation on GovCloud. These are all the ways that you can mitigate these security challenges and keep this information not only accessible, but also secure at the same time. Lisa is asking, how do you see the training of cost engineers evolving as AI takes on more tasks? Underneath that question is AI going to eat everybody's lunch? Are cost engineers going to disappear? My answer is no. In my humble opinion, there is no way to substitute for the insight and experience of a human user, a human expert, human professional. And with that in mind, that's why when AI is developed for cost, schedule, and risk, it needs to be able to ensure that it's providing avenues, actionable insights, data consolidation, normalization, harmonization, a combination of paths that professional might take. But ultimately, the decisioning has to be on the part of the human, not on the part of the AI. That's a bad path. Now, I reserve the right to change my mind in 5 years, because if AI actually becomes much more insightful beyond the generic responses that it's generated by scraping information off the internet, then maybe. Estimation-centric AI has a much better path towards that type of assistance because it's been specially trained on cost, schedule, and risk. And that's the biggest issue. But when it comes to decisioning, that should not be handed over to artificial intelligence. There's too many nuances. And let me show you an example in just a couple of minutes here. Ken is asking, do I have a metric on how long it takes to train AI? This is why, so training is always ongoing, but this is why I've been talking about RAG ingestion and the automated RAG ingestion that comes with it. So instant RAG allows the AI to access information at scale, and deployed as an isolated tenant with role-based access control, this approach gives you for lack of a better term, a personalized and organizationally focused artificial intelligence. It ends up yours because it constantly learns. We approach this by putting in a back office that allows you to either upload information, or we have an agent that allows that to access it on the fly. And with that comes a specialized version of things. So the training does not require anything other than the upload of information, and it's instantly vectorized, and literally in a matter of seconds, like 5. And then it is accessible to the artificial intelligence based on role-based access control. Only the right people get access to the right thing at the right time. So that's how we've addressed training. Otherwise, you build your own AI, and you'll spend forever trying to get the quality right by using a generic artificial intelligence. We hear you. John's asking, does the need to keep the human in the loop mean any AI assisted estimates are still going to have to be manually verified using traditional techniques? Traditional's quoted here. So John, I'd ask you to qualify that a little bit better. But I think it's different for each organization. Some of the organizations I've been working with want the AI to take on a little bit more. Others only want the insights where the action happens on the part of the human. I think my suggestion is to crawl before you walk, and keep the humans in the loop as long as possible. If you then get comfortable and you see other opportunities for AI workflows and processes to take over, that ends up a choice instead of leading with that out of the gate and then trying to clean up a mess that happens afterwards. So I would strongly recommend crawling before you walk. And don't move away from traditional techniques. Like implementing artificial intelligence within your organization is mostly going to be about change management. The technology is, I mean, as challenging as it is to implement, it's the relatively easy part. Showing people the possibilities that come with it and then teaching them how to use it, that's a different animal. And I have recommendations for that at the end of this presentation for certain. But that's really what I would be recommending is focus on the change management side. What steps can an organization take to build confidence in AI support in an AI supported estimate? Like many others, I've encountered hallucinations. This is from Lisa. In generative artificial intelligence and wonder about what QA might look like. So, for those who don't know, hallucination is when an AI makes things up on the fly, like whole cloth, because it's generative. It just creates an answer, and because it sounds so confident, it's taken verbatim as something that's accurate and real. We've moved away from so anybody who tells you they've eliminated hallucinations is lying. Just to be clear, we have a platform we've been working on for the past 2.5 years, which is now shipping and out there and working. We haven't eliminated hallucinations, but we have dramatically reduced them. And that's specifically because of two reasons. We are accessing historical verified information, and the information that comes in and is referenced as part of an estimate or part of a discussion is cited and referenced with a source. So you can always back up the estimate to exactly where it originated, or back up the data that's being generated to where that original document was. And that's very straightforward. I need to understand where and how it's thinking so that I can assess its relevancy. And your question, Lisa, ties into John's last question. How do we hand things over to AI? My answer today is don't. By handing things over, you are allowing the AI to determine not only what's being created, but the relevance and accuracy of the model and the data that it has generated. And in my opinion, that is a mistake. It's supposed to add value. It's not supposed to be you. I hope that helps. Okay, and traditional in that prior question was meant manual. I don't think it has to necessarily be manual. Specialized agents have the ability to double and triple check a human's work. As a very fast 30-second side note, as part of my master's program, I tested myself to see if I could generate a prompt that would generate a 20-page thesis paper from 22 different sources, two of which were over 400 pages long, and to see if I could turn it in as an A paper. And then it took me 6 months to build the prompt. So it would have been much easier and faster to just read the sources and write the paper. But I did do it, and it got an A. I then told my professor, and then I turned in a real version to her afterwards. But we wanted to explore what it meant to look at that type of accuracy. And the only reason I had insight into the accuracy itself was because I was involved manually, John, the whole time. So I don't see in a short-term future where manual double checking, or at least understanding the citations and the source material better, is going to go away. I think that's going to be critical for the time being. So let me walk through just one fast example of kind of the power of what you might be able to experience in something like this. There's endless, endless use cases. These are just some of those that that might have your attention. To be able to put in an RFP request and have that go out and to your past RFP responses, conduct a win-loss scenario analysis of which ones won, which ones didn't, and then map those clauses and those responses back to a new RFP based on win-loss ratio. That's a perfect use case. That's something that AI specializes in. This is one of the agentic workflows that I've been referencing. Critical. Generating a work breakdown structure or a bill of materials based on historical information, based on 2D, 3D drawing. Any of these can be spun up as an agentic workflow. Just in the spirit of this, I'll just show you a couple of what these things might look like for you as you start to operationalize. So let me stop sharing for just a second and get into something a little bit different here. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. This should not be construed as a formal demonstration, but I just want to show you some possibilities. So if I were to say something generic, let's put all this in context. I want to say something generic. I'm not going to form up a crazy prompt that gives me that gives the AI lots of information. I'm going to say, I have a 3D schematic of a new communications satellite. I want to estimate the work breakdown structure and the cost. And the AI should then be able to interpret that for me and say, okay, I know what you're looking for. So upload your schematic and let me now help you with it. So I upload a CAD file. And once it's ingested, I'm greeted with 3 agents that I've been describing. One of them is analyze the geometry, the other, the materials themselves, and the other, the subsystem components in the model. And the AI is now generating this based on the agents that have analyzed this drawing. And it says that it found 3 past satellite projects in the internal historical database that align with the design that I uploaded. And not only do I see these ranked by similarity, but I have some visibility into how these were generated. And in the spirit of what we've been talking about, so sure, this one was done in SeerH. That's my company's product. But there's some others here that don't necessarily connect with my organization. And it's because the AI needs to be agnostic. As you start looking at this, we recognize, at Galorath, we recognize that you have a combination of solutions running at your organization, not just in our market, but across the board. It needs to be flexible enough to be able to access these software packages, okay? So it's ranked by similarity, but it's not done. These agents, because they talk to each other, I'm now greeted with more insights. So the satellite design that I've uploaded includes updated propulsion and high efficiency solar panels, which might require external market validation. So now I'm in this place of actionable insights. What do I want to do? And here are some proposed paths. Do I want to cross-check solar panel supplier pricing using IHS Market or Airbus procurement? Do I want to validate propulsion using GovIQ? Do I want to proceed with internal comparisons? Or I can type something else that I want to do. So for this, I'll just say I want to proceed with internal comparisons. And here I now have a comparison of my most similar project because I am using automated prompt engineering. So it's now going to interpret this for me. And it's going to choose, in this example, the Orion 7. And it's going to base a work breakdown structure based on my new schematic married up with that. Now, I saw a chat come in. Let me just see if this is a question based on what I'm covering here. Okay. Yes, Ed, I will do that. Asking for presentation slides. Absolutely. So here, I'm going to pull up the work breakdown structure that it gave me, and I'm opening up a canvas that allows me to pull up this full work breakdown that combines what I just put up, as well as what I just uploaded, as well as the information that is in my historical database. And I can view this in lots of great ways and figure out what this is. Maybe this is as far as I want to take it. Well, in this version, because we're looking at a combination of integrations, maybe I can just open this any place, including Excel or Microsoft Project or anywhere I want to. Maybe this is as far as I want to take it. Or I can keep querying it and I can keep working through this WBS, and then figure out what I want to do from here. So if I want to keep going and I compare this to the cost, to the Orion 7 cost model, I now will pull up a different type of comparison. Here, I'm looking at grouped systems and the cost delta analysis, and along with the source of where these originated. So I've got pure visibility, and the AI is providing all of this information because it's coming across a combination of systems on the back end. So I can see where things are at. Again, this is not about decisioning. This is about ensuring that the user, the cost estimation professional, the cost engineer, has as much information as possible as they start to decide what to do with this information so that they can make really good decisions in a much faster way. So I'm now going to say, let's build out and let's take the existing work breakdown and build out a preliminary cost estimate. Well, where do I want to do that? Well, let me see the entire thing in the canvas. So I can now pull this up in the canvas, and I can see that this is actually a multi-tabbed Excel sheet. And oh, I don't have all the access that I need because this is role-based access control. So because I'm tied into that in this example, I have to ensure that I connect with the right people here. So with that in mind, where do I want to open this? Well, maybe I want to open this in Excel. Well, Excel is web-based. So I have the ability to be in Excel and do anything I would here. And now I can work with this document and this data any place I would want to. Alternatively, if I wanted to open this up within a specific software package, I could as well. And now I'm greeted with a mini agent that will then help me put this to the model. And within just a couple of minutes of being here, I now have a work breakdown structure that I can work on. So my point with this example is that when we talk about tying into multiple systems, flexibility, keen insights to ensure that you have the ability to not only gather and access the right information, but ensure that you are getting it accurately and timely. That's what matters the most. Let me pull up my presentation one more time here. Brief example, as I said, there were a couple of chats that came in. Let me see here. So let me see. Zachary's asking, have you explored integration with other software PLM tools? We have. That's what Model Context Protocol is about. I'm happy to take that part offline. So if you want to drop me an email, my email address is corlando@galorath.com. Happy to address that. John's asking why I built this in Figma, that walkthrough. The purpose of this presentation was to provide education and not to be a software sales pitch. So I purposely did not pull up a production version of ECAI today. I didn't want that. I want you guys to walk away with a combination of information. Anybody wants a demo? I'm happy to set you up with the right person to make that happen. Today, and as we start talking about what's possible, I want to make sure that you have some keen understanding in the type of cycle reduction time that this represents for you. Whether you select Galorath for your solution or not, what's most important from my perspective is ensuring that organizations understand both the power and the potential missteps of implementing artificial intelligence. So we talked about some of those challenges for sure, but the qualitative and quantitative impact is significant. We talk about cycle time reductions to look at how you can produce an initial cost and schedule baseline. You can move from, we've seen organizations moving from about 12 days to just under 5. That's a 40 to 60% cycle time reduction. Accuracy by the incorporation of historical information. I can't name the company, but as part of the evaluation process, Their exact quote, I'm going to paraphrase this slightly, with a conservative estimate of a 1% increase in accuracy and speed, they estimated that they would generate $130 million in net new ARR in a calendar year. And the productivity increase, those aren't my figures, by the way, those are theirs. And the productivity increases, once it's been operationalized, are significant. So this isn't just about magical change, though. This is a combination of implementation at an organizational level, and that's something I want to leave everybody with. This if you've enjoyed the presentation, I'm glad for that. But I want to make sure that you leave with the most important piece of this. If you are going to do anything like what I've been describing, it's critical that for these 5 things. You want to establish internal commitment at the highest level possible. Otherwise, this is destined for failure, because it's change management that counts the most. How this gets implemented on the technical side is the relatively straightforward part. How people utilize it, which systems and workflows and processes it touches, that's separate. Make sure that you start an internal dialogue at all levels to understand what it means from a technical side as well as it means from a usability side. You have to not only provide training, but you want to adjust course based on how you are measuring the success and failure of what is being addressed. And that benchmarking at the beginning and the management of how things are being not only utilized, but the qualitative and quantitative results, that measurement is critical. And lastly, keep a human in the loop. The last thing I would want is to if I haven't said enough times here, handing things over to artificial intelligence for decisioning is not in anybody's best interest today. So I would strongly encourage that. Somebody asked for my email to be repeated. It's now in the chat. Let me see. Kayla's asking that there's a Gen AI platform, seems like it may act as a springboard to fast track modules similar to what you're demonstrating that rely on behind the scenes generative AI for specific cost-related tasks. I don't know enough about that platform, but I would love to check it out. One of the things that's been a challenge for us is that there are not enough organizations in cost, schedule, and risk that are performing this type of development and innovation. We are the only one, if not. If there are others, I have not seen them actually take the plunge into building out an estimation-centric artificial intelligence. If this is one, I'm encouraged. I would love for some people to join us on this development path so that we're providing a combination of value to our constituents and those who are considering this. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I may not be able to get that, but drop me an email. Maybe you can sponsor me to get access. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, Charles, I'm going to jump in now because this is the liveliest chat I've seen in some time. Well done, you, and well done, everybody, for getting really involved here.
Well, we're right at time, so
right, exactly. That's why I had to get the hook. Thank you, everybody. Like we said in the chat and live, we're going to get the slides from Charles, and we're going to put this recording up on YouTube, and we're going to repost it on the ICEAonline.com/SoCal page. So if your friends and loved ones weren't able to join us today, you can forward that with abandon starting tomorrow around this time. I want to say thank you to Charles and for Lisa and the Southern California for getting this going. And that's what I would have to say. But Charles and Lisa, do you have anything you want to close us with?
Well, I would really like to, I would really like to thank Charles for this really insightful and engaging presentation. I want to just say you really appreciate you sharing your expertise today. This potential for AI cost engineering, it seems to be vast, and I'm excited to see how the speed and accuracy of cost estimating improves over time. Maybe we'll leave GAO with nothing to complain about. So before we wrap up, just a few friendly reminders. If you want to present, anybody wants to present at a future webinar or workshop for the ICEA Southern California chapter, please let us know. My email is pellet@rand.org. It's just like spelled, but without the S, pellet@rand.org. And you can also find the speaker and volunteer sign up at the ICEA SoCal website. And you can just register there kind of directly to do a webinar. And also, if your organization would like to be a venue for a future workshop for the chapter, and you're located in Southern California, that would be wonderful. We'd welcome that. So, keep in touch. And also, please stay tuned about upcoming webinars, upcoming workshops, and social activities. We're planning to have a spring baseball game gathering at Angel Stadium in the spring. So look forward to keeping in touch and seeing you at future webinars. And Charles, any last words from you?
No, just thank you everybody for your time. If you enjoyed it, again, my name's Charles Orlando. My email's in the chat. If you didn't, my name is Chris Hutchings and I'm in the sales department. So there you go.
All right. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody, for making this one so great. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Be good to yourselves and to each other. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.